The next morning, Arian's mother asked him, "Have you seen that sweet girl again?" Arian nodded. "Yes, she's here every day. She still comes." His mother smiled. "I remember her hand holding mine. I was in pain. I couldn't speak, but she stayed beside me praying with her silence. It felt like God sent her." Arian looked at his mother. Her words stayed in his mind. God sent her. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Mira's life, her pain, her silence, her strength. Suddenly, something told him to know more about her. He made a few calls. He asked one of his staff to check the hospital records, to see if Mira's story was true. He wanted to know more about her past. The next day, his assistant brought him an old file. "Sir, you were right. Mira's mother was admitted here 4 years ago. Terminal illness. The girl stayed with her day and night. After her death, no one came for her. Mira was just 16 then. She refused to go to any shelter. She said she'd live by herself." Arian opened the file. Inside was an old photo. Mira as a teenager, holding her mother's hand. Her eyes were the same. Silent, soft, deep with motion. His heart broke again. How did she survive alone all these years? How did she stay so kind when the world had been so cruel? That evening, Arian waited for Mira at the hospital garden. When she came, he stood up and said, "I want to show you something." She looked confused. Arian took her to the hospital records room. He showed her the old file, her mother's file. Mira looked at it with wide eyes. Her hands trembled. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She took the photo and pressed it to her chest. Arian said, "I found it for you. You deserve to have this." Mira couldn't speak, but she folded her hands and bowed her head in gratitude. Arian placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone anymore," he said gently. Her eyes looked up at him, surprised, unsure, but soft. He didn't say more, but inside his heart he felt something growing, something deep, quiet, and new. The next few days were calm. Arian's mother was healing slowly, and the doctors were hopeful. Arian stayed close to her, but something inside him was changing. His thoughts were no longer filled with anger or revenge. Now, they were full of questions. And one name, Mira. Mira still came to the hospital. She sat in her usual spot near the garden, folding paper into flowers. Sometimes she handed them to patients. Sometimes she left them quietly at the nurse's desk. She never said a word, but her actions spoke louder than any voice. And Arian began to notice something else. He missed her when she wasn't there. One evening, Arian sat beside her on the garden bench. "I've been thinking," he said gently. "You've been through so much, yet you've never asked for help. Why?" Mira looked at him and slowly wrote in her notebook, "Because I don't want pity. I want respect." Those words hit Arian hard. He nodded silently. He respected her more than most people in his world of business, money, and lies. That evening, he said, "I'd like to help you, not out of pity, but because you deserve better." Mira looked away and wrote, "What I have is enough. A smile, a kind word, a small flower. I can give these." Arian smiled a little. "And what if someone wanted to give you more?" She paused, then wrote slowly, "Why would someone want to give more to someone like me?" Arian didn't answer, not with words. He stood up, walked to his car, and brought back a small gift box. Inside it was a set of colorful paper, pens, scissors, and glue. Beautiful, bright materials for her handmade crafts. Mira opened it and froze. Her fingers touched the colored paper as if it was gold. "I noticed your paper was torn and old," Arian said. "This is not charity. It's appreciation." Mira looked up. Her eyes glistened. No one had ever done something like this for her. Not with respect, not with care. She didn't cry, she didn't write anything. She just placed her hand on her heart, a silent thank you. The next morning, something even more unexpected happened. Arian's mother asked, "Can you bring Mira to see me?" Arian was surprised. Now? She smiled. Yes, I want to talk to her, with my heart. Arian found Mira sitting under the tree, carefully cutting a red paper heart. He walked up to her and said, My mother wants to see you. Mira looked shocked. She remembers you, Arian said. She thinks of you as her daughter. Mira stood up slowly. Her hands trembled. She followed him into the hospital room. Arian's mother was sitting up, weak but smiling. Mira entered, holding a small paper rose she had made just that morning. She gave it to the older woman with both hands. Arian's mother took it and said, You gave me strength when I had no voice. Now I want to give you something. She removed a thin gold bracelet from her wrist. This was mine for many years. I want you to have it. Mira shook her head quickly. She didn't want to take anything, but Arian's mother held her hand, gently, and said, You are part of my story now. Not just the accident, but the healing. Mira couldn't stop the tears this time. She cried silently. Arian stood nearby, watching the two women. One rich, one poor, but both full of love. That night, Arian couldn't sleep. He sat by the window in his large house, thinking. He had spent years chasing success, making money, building empires. But now a simple girl with no voice had taught him what real strength was. Kindness, patience, forgiveness. He had once yelled at her, judged her without knowing her truth. And still, she gave him a second chance. Not with words, but with action. The next day, Arian invited Mira to meet him again in the garden. She came, holding her notebook. I want to ask something, he said. Would you allow me to know you better? Mira looked surprised. He added, Not out of guilt, not out of kindness, but because I admire you. You are different, and maybe I need different in my life. Mira smiled gently. She opened her notebook and wrote, I don't know how to be in someone's life, I only know how to stay near and care quietly. Arian replied, Then stay near, and let me care back. And from that day forward, something new began. Not love, not yet. But a quiet bond, a seed of something beautiful, slowly growing in silence. Days turned into weeks. Arian's mother was almost fully recovered. The hospital visits were fewer now, but Arian still came, because Mira was there. Their bond had grown quietly. They never called it friendship. There were no fancy promises, no loud words, just silence, understanding, respect. Arian had learned to listen, not just with ears, but with heart, and Mira had learned to trust, not everyone, but him. One evening, Arian brought her something special, a custom-made sketchbook, her name, written in gold on the cover. She opened it slowly, her fingers shaking. On the first page, he had written, For the girl who speaks without a voice. Mira pressed her hand to her chest, tears silently falling. But the world doesn't like silent stories. One morning, Arian entered his office and found his assistant looking nervous. Sir, he said, your photo is in the news. Arian, what photo? The assistant opened his tablet. A gossip website showed a headline. Millionaire spotted with street girl. Who is the mystery woman? Below it was a picture. Arian and Mira sitting on the hospital bench. Mira was handing him a paper flower. Arian stared at the screen. His blood boiled, not in anger at Mira, but at the world. People in the comments laughed. Some said he was going mad. Others said he was trying to look kind. Some even insulted Mira, calling her a beggar, a trap, a fake. Arian slammed the tablet shut. He rushed to the hospital, heart racing. Mira was not at her usual spot. He searched the garden, the waiting area, the nurse station. She was gone. Later that evening, Arian found her near her roadside shelter. She was sitting alone, her eyes red, her bag of crafts torn open, papers flying around. Someone had come during the day, taken pictures and thrown her things. Arian bent down and began picking up her paper stars one by one. She didn't look at him. He sat beside her. I'm sorry, Mira. I should have protected you. She slowly opened her notebook and wrote, It's not your fault. People always laugh at what they don't understand, he replied, but they hurt you, and I won't let that happen again. She wiped her tears but said nothing. Arian looked at her and asked, "Do you trust me?" She nodded. "Then come with me," he said. Mira looked surprised. She shook her head quickly. He smiled. "Not forever, just for now. Come to my home. It's safe. You can rest. You deserve peace." She hesitated, but when she looked at the torn paper stars and the cruel laughter in her memory, she slowly stood up. Arian brought Mira to his large house for the first time. It wasn't fancy for her. It was unfamiliar. She sat quietly in a corner, her arms folded, unsure. He showed her the guest room. Clean, warm, filled with paper, pens, and books. "This is yours," he said. Mira looked at him with wide eyes, then wrote, "No one ever gave your room before," he replied softly. "You gave me something first, understanding. I'm just returning it." That night, Arian's mother came to meet Mira. She hugged her gently. "I'm glad you're here, dear. You're family now." Mira couldn't stop her tears. She bowed low, holding the old lady's hand. For the first time in years, she felt what a home felt like. Not walls or lights, but warmth. But outside that home, the world was still watching. Paparazzi camped near the gates. News headlines twisted the truth. "Millionaire hides poor girl at home." Who is she? Secret lover or street scam? Arian's friends began calling. "Have you lost your mind? She'll ruin your name. Send her away before it's too late." But Arian stayed silent. He didn't explain. He didn't shout. Instead, he looked at Mira one night and said, "If you want, I can take you far away, somewhere peaceful. Just say the word." Mira looked at him, tears in her eyes. Then slowly wrote, "I don't want to run. I want to stand. With you. If you let me." And Arian, for the first time in his powerful, rich, respected life, felt proud of someone's courage more than his money. But life was about to test them. Again. Because the next morning Arian received a letter, a legal warning, from his own family. They were not just angry. They were ready to fight him, all because of the girl with no voice. The house was silent. Arian stood in his study, holding the legal notice in his hand. His fingers trembled, but not from fear, from betrayal. The papers were official, signed by his uncle and cousin. They were taking him to court. The reason? He is mentally unstable and damaging the family's image by living with a street. Girl Arian's empire had been built by hard work, but his family had always cared more about status than truth. They were ashamed that the name Malhotra was now connected with a poor, voiceless girl. He threw the paper on the table. Mira was sitting in the garden when Arian's mother came to her. "My son is in pain again," she said gently. "Because of you?" Mira looked down, heart sinking. The old lady touched her hand. "But listen carefully, my child. It's not your fault. You gave him something none of us could. Peace." Tears filled Mira's eyes. She quickly took her notebook and wrote, "I don't want to cause trouble. Maybe I should leave." Arian's mother shook her head. "No, don't run. You've done nothing wrong." Just then, Arian came outside. His face was calm, but his eyes were stormy. "They're challenging my right to lead the business," he said. "They say I've gone mad because I trust a girl with no voice." Mira slowly stood up. She looked at him with guilt, fear, and sadness, but Arian walked straight to her and held her hand. "Let them say what they want," he said. "They have money, but I have you, and I'm not giving that up." Mira's eyes widened. His words were soft but powerful. Over the next few days, everything changed. News spread quickly. Family war begins over Millionaire's mystery girl. Arian Malhotra faces mental evaluation. Is love making him weak? Every channel was talking. Every camera was watching. Mira stayed inside the house. She didn't leave even once. Not because Arian stopped her, but because she didn't want to be a burden. She started helping silently, making tea for Arian's mother, arranging books, fixing broken things, decorating corners with paper flowers and stars. The mansion once, cold and proud, now felt like a home. One evening, Arian sat beside Mira in the study. "I have to attend a business board meeting tomorrow," he said. "They want to question my decisions and my mind." Mira looked down. She opened her notebook and wrote, "I'm sorry I caused this." He touched her hand. "You didn't cause it. They did, because they're scared of someone they can't control," she wrote again. "Then let me go, they'll stop," he replied. "And what about me? Who do I become if I let go of the only person who stood by me when everyone else walked away?" Mira had no answer. But that night, as Arian sat, alone in his room, he realized something. He didn't just respect Mira now. He didn't just care. He loved her. Not because she was beautiful, not because she was kind, but because she was true, in a world full of lies. The next day, Arian walked into the boardroom. His uncle and cousin were already there, smug and confident. One of the board members said, "Mr. Arian, we are concerned about your recent behavior. Are you mentally fit to run this company?" Arian smiled calmly. "I built this company with my hands, my heart, my mind. Yes, I chose to help someone with no wealth, no voice, but with more dignity than any of you sitting here." His uncle shouted, "You're throwing our name in the gutter." Arian looked him straight in the eyes. "No, I'm washing the dirt off it." There was silence. Another member asked, "Are you saying you love this girl?" Arian stood up proudly. "I'm not saying it," he said. "I'm living it." Outside the meeting, reporters waited. The moment Arian stepped out, microphones flew toward him. "Is it true you're in love with a poor, mute girl? Do you plan to marry her? Are you leaving your family business?" Arian raised his hand. "I don't care what people think. Mira saved my mother's life. Then she saved mine, my heart, my peace, my truth. If that makes me a fool, then I'll gladly be one." The next day, newspapers printed a new headline. Arian Malhotra chooses love over legacy. Back at home, Mira was waiting. He walked in, eyes filled with fire, but also with peace. She stood up, her hands shaking. He came close, took her notebook, and wrote something himself. "Will you walk this life with me?" Mira's eyes widened. She looked at him, then at his mother standing behind him with a soft smile. Slowly, Mira nodded. Tears fell. But this time they were not from sadness. They were from hope. But just as the love began to bloom, a hidden truth was about to rise. Secret from Mira's past. Something that could destroy everything. The air in Arian's house was calm. The noise from the outside world had started to fade. The media had stopped shouting. The board had accepted Arian's decision. His mother's health was stable. And Mira. She smiled more now. Not wide smiles, but quiet ones that lit up her eyes. Her room, once a guest room, was now her room. Filled with her paper art, hand-drawn stars, soft music, and gentle peace. Arian and Mira weren't a perfect couple, but what they had was real. Every morning, she made tea for Arian's mother. Every evening, Arian read stories to Mira. Sometimes, they sat in silence for hours. No need for words, just presence, but fate wasn't finished yet. One day, Arian received a strange envelope at his doorstep. No name, no sender. Inside was a single photo. It showed Mira, much younger, standing in a small room beside a man who looked dangerous. On the back of the photo was a note. "Do you really know who she is?" Arian froze. That night, he sat beside Mira. He didn't show her the photo yet. Instead, he asked gently, "Mira, there's something I want to know. Will you tell me about your past?" Mira's hands went cold. She looked down. She slowly picked up her notebook, wrote, "You won't love me after that." Arian took her hand. "I don't love you because you're perfect. I love you because you're honest. Please, tell me." And for the first time ever, Mira spoke her story. Not with her voice, but with paper, old photos, and her shaking hands. She was not always mute. Years ago, as a child, she had witnessed a terrible crime. her own father hurting someone. When she tried to speak up, he threatened her. One night, in fear, she ran away. She lived on the streets, hiding her identity. She became silent, not because she couldn't speak, but because she chose not to. One day she tried to save a boy from being hit by a car and got hurt badly. That accident damaged her voice permanently. From then on, silence became her life. She never went back. She didn't know if her father was alive or watching. Arian sat there, stunned, not because she had a secret, but because of her pain and her strength. He stood up, walked to her, and hugged her tightly. "I don't care what you were," he whispered. "I care about who you are now." But the mystery note wasn't done. That same night, Arian's security caught a man trying to sneak onto the property. When police questioned him, they discovered something shocking. It was Mira's father. He had seen Mira in the news and followed her. He was not there for love. He was there to blackmail Arian, using Mira's past for money. Arian was furious, but Mira was broken. She sat silently, her hands covering her face. "I never wanted to bring this pain to your life," she wrote later. Arian looked at her and said gently, "You didn't bring pain. You brought light. He brought pain. And now it ends." Arian filed a case against the man. With proof and witnesses, Mira's father was arrested. For the first time in years, justice was served. Weeks passed. Peace returned once more. One morning, Arian took Mira to a quiet park where birds chirped and wind danced in the trees. He knelt in front of her and handed her a small paper box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, shaped like a folded paper star. He looked into her eyes. "You gave me hope when I was drowning. You showed me silence can heal louder than words. Mira, will you marry me?" Tears ran down her cheeks. She nodded. Not once, but over and over, and for the first time since her childhood, her lips moved. She whispered, broken but beautiful. Yes. The wedding was quiet. No media. No grand show. Just a garden filled with paper flowers. Arian's mother in a light blue sari. A few trusted friends. And Mira glowing in white holding Arian's hand. People said it wouldn't last. But years later they were still together. He became a better man. She became an artist. They built a small charity together for street children, giving them food, books, safety, and most of all, voice. And on their garden wall hung a frame with one sentence written in golden ink.